I want you to cast your mind back to October of 2020. Some of you watching might be newer players who don't know what I'm about to talk about, so sit back and listen closely to the story of one of the worst cases of corporate greed in League's recent history. Everyone was still reeling after the bombastic Spirit Blossom event, and we saw a Twitter account with art of a pretty pink-haired girl posting about her journey as an artist. Okay. A few weeks later, we find out that this account is connected to Riot Games, and they're gonna release some new KDA music, and this Seraphine character is gonna somehow be connected to it. Okay, you know I love me some KDA. But then it got weird. Let's look into exactly what made Seraphine's release such a spectacle, and what exactly about it riled up the community so much. Imagine being a Sona main in 2020, finally getting a good skin release so you don't have to play with PlayStation 2 models anymore, paying $15 for the skin, and then a month later, having your champion completely overwritten by a pink TikToker from Piltover. When Seraphine's abilities were revealed, it was as if World War III broke out in the League community. The similarities between her kit and Sona's kit were palpable, and it was made doubly worse by the fact that they were both music-based champions, so it felt like literal identity theft. Q was a damaging ability, W was an AoE heal and a shield, E slowed enemy movement rather than boost her own teams, which is fine, I guess, that's a different ability. But Seraphine's ultimate is in every way an objectively better version of Sona's. It's wider, has longer range, has the same cooldown at max rank, and can extend its range when it hits an ally. The only downside is that it has half a second longer of a cast time. Not only that, but her lore was extremely rushed and odd too. But reading her lore when it came out, it was painfully obvious that KDA Seraphine was conceived way before Seraphine Runeterra and was the priority, and the lore team had to find a ham-fisted way to fit her into the canon lore, of which they did a pretty bad job. No hate though, they just had to work with what they had, which wasn't a lot. Giving her a Bracken crystal to help cope with her illness was fine, I guess, but being forced to put it on a music-based pop star character was probably very limiting in the directions they could take the idea, and that could have been what made the Runeterra version of Seraphine fall short. It was actually so bad that Riot had to go back and hotfix the lore and change some phrasing in it to make it somewhat less bad. Both her extremely uninspired kit paired with her poo-poo lore made the community outraged, to the point where the dregs of society on Twitter started sending death threats to Seraphine's designers and creators. But this wasn't the main attraction. Just like her lore, the problems with her as a champion were overshadowed by something much more sinister. Seraphine made her first tweet on the 26th of June and her first Instagram post on the 27th of June. And because I'd rather put toothpicks under my toenails and cosplay Kylian Mbappe than use a Twitter account, the Instagram was the main way I experienced the KDA Seraphine ARG. So being on Instagram, I wasn't really exposed to all the cringe shit until I started watching YouTube videos about it. And boy were there YouTube videos about it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After making her initial debut on her social media accounts, she began to document her life, posting pictures of her cat, her cooking, her cat, her making music, and her cat. Seraphine's cat Bao literally has more lore than Shaco does. The goal here was to make her seem as relatable and appealing as possible, and though it's easy to call it creepy and predatory after the fact, we need to realize that hindsight is 2020, and it was kinda different while it was actually going on. At least on the Instagram side of things, it didn't seem all that bad to me, and I just thought it was a really cool ARG. Most people figured out pretty quick that this character was gonna be a champion in-game, because God forbid Riot conceives a character and not put it in their game. I think the only character who's managed to dodge this bullet is Silco. Kinda. But the part that I was thinking about the most during the ARG was how they were gonna make this character in Runeterra, because KDA takes place in the real world. With that question in the back of my mind, I continued to observe from a safe distance. Despite being point blank on it, I never actually participated in the ARG by commenting on it or anything. In the beginning it seemed harmless, but then it started getting weirder. In a bid to seem even more real and relatable, Seraphine began to indirectly tweet about being depressed, feeling like all the happiness and success she was getting as a part of KDA was undeserved and stuff like that, which would have been fine if it was just a character in a story or a series of cinematics. But the fact that you could go out and interact with her and comment on her posts and sometimes literally have her talk back to you added a weird layer to it. And this weird layer was finally revealed in all of its disgusting capitalist glory when they revealed that the entire point behind the Twitter, the Instagram, all the posturing, and the KDA EP was to sell a $25 ultimate skin. This recontextualized a lot of things that happened. The amount of collective suspension of disbelief that was funneled into the social media accounts shattered like glass, and people were fuming. Riot was effectively using cats and implied mental illnesses to build this relationship with the player base, just so they could make money through it with an ultimate skin. I know phrasing it like that sounds harsh, but that's literally what happened. But the ultimate skin wasn't the only way that Riot managed to capitalize off the Seraphine hype. They rammed KDA content into all of their other games, even if it made no sense. For example, in Legends of Runeterra, Kai'Sa, Ahri, Akali, Evelynn, and Seraphine weren't even champions in the game yet, so they put them in the form of spells, one which nearly broke the game. And the The copious amounts of emotes, card backs, and buddies in the $15 event pass was where the money came from. After the reveal of the ultimate skin, the World's 2020 opening ceremony happened. That's a story in and of itself, but for the purposes of this video, I'll just say that due to Corona, it wasn't necessarily the most ideal outcome. But the part that Seraphine plays in it is what I want to focus on the most. The EP came out with 5 songs in total, one for each of the main members and the main song, More, which had Seraphine featured on a verse. Now let's take a second to listen to Seraphine's section of the song.
This is how I do it every day. Wow, wow. 这一路上的奇迹都记住了你的每一个瞬间，无比的耀眼。I know you want some more， 准备好就一起走 ，giving it all。
So apparently, the second picture she ever posted on her Instagram is supposed to tell you that she's Chinese, and this was the only time it was mentioned. Why was such a minor missable detail such a big contributor in her verse in the song? Don't get me wrong, the song is still absolute flames, but that's besides the point. Scooch framed this in a really good way, so I'll just use his point.
But it's just they gave us nothing. They gave us nothing. What if every single day I was like, guys, I'm gonna release a single soon? I'm gonna release a single soon. You know, guys, I just really want to fucking release a single. You know, I've been working on music and I'm just like, I've been nervous. I've been battling anxiety, right? I've been battling so much anxiety, but honestly, I don't know. I just need to release a single. This is gonna be for me. And then tomorrow I release the fucking single. And it's fucking Despacito 2. What would you do? Would you not be shocked? If the entire time I'm talking to you in English, the entire time I'm like, yeah, guys, this is my life. I always make music, blah, blah, blah. And then you fucking turn on my fucking, and then it's just fucking, like, what the fuck would you do? You'd be like, you'd be shocked. You would be baffled. It's not saying it's a bad thing. It might slap. But if I fucking release some merengue after talking like this, the entire fucking time, you're not gonna go, oh, what the fuck? You are.
This leads me to another conspiracy theory that I kinda subscribe to. Because Riot is owned by Tencent, the Chinese mega corporation that owns and pulls their strings from the shadows, they had to find a way to appeal more to the Chinese market, because obviously League is huge in China. And what better way to do that than by making the girl that they've relentlessly been promoting for the past 3 months Chinese? Was this successful in bumping up sales for the skin? I can't say for sure, and honestly, I don't care. Having Seraphine randomly start singing in Chinese was more shocking than getting hit in the face by a wet football. But one thing that I need to acknowledge before we go on is that the people actually posting on the social media accounts aren't the ones at fault. The only genuine argument that you can make against the post is that tweeting about mental illnesses like that was in poor taste. But in the mind of people posting it, it was probably the right thing to do. They were just passionate about what they were writing and wanted to do their job in the best way possible. And I think it actually would have worked if it wasn't all just a ploy to sell skins. I mean, the idea of people struggling in a creative field and the mental stress that comes with it is arguably one of the most relatable things in the era we live in. Literally every small creator like me goes through the same thing, and so do indie musicians, rappers, artists, and everyone in any other creative field. If the point of the ARG wasn't to sell a skin, I feel that it would have been really well executed. From an objective standpoint, not a single other developer has even tried to come close to executing anything similar with the whole fictional girl with the social media account thing. Let me give you an example of arguably the biggest ARG in recent memory that didn't get spoiled by corporate greed. Let's cast our minds like way back, like 7 years ago in August of 2016. Overwatch had just been released, and in the files of the game, a name kept on popping up, Sombra. Then people began to notice around the maps there were constant mentions of her on monitors and newspaper clippings on the ground. Reaper even had a rare voice line, and there were a bunch of other things too. But then Anna came out, and a bright flash in her trailer had a hidden string of hexadecimal numbers, which you could only see by enhancing the contrast on that one frame. Then people deciphered it, and it turned out to just be random letters. But wait, no, it's not just random, it's a Zor cipher which spat out a message in Spanish. Then in one of the dev updates, they hid barcodes in a glitch transition which gave you a binary code. You stacked the lines of binary, made the ones black and the zeros white, and you got a QR code. This kept going on for ages, and people constantly kept hunting, meticulously combing through every single video posted on the Overwatch YouTube channel for any clues for months. And all this I mentioned is only from 4 minutes of a 24-minute long video about the ARG, so you can imagine the depth and effort that went into it. But what separates a Sombra ARG from the Seraphine one is that at the end of the day, Sombra was a free playable hero that was added into the game, not a $25 ultimate skin. Can you imagine if instead of the release of Sombra, they made it like Sombra Ana or some something and made it a legendary skin. That would ruin all the effort that people put into it to find clues and participate in the ARG. And in the same vein, people who participated in the Seraphine ARG by interacting with her on social media got cucked out by it being nothing more than a ploy to sell a skin. But after the release of Seraphine and the All Out EP, on November the 8th, 2020, Seraphine made her final post on Instagram, thanking the fans for everything they did over the past few months. And then it was all over. The social media accounts went silent and people moved on. The only scar left remaining from the entire shit show was there was another kind of annoying enchanter in League. Legends of Runeterra players still wake up in cold sweats thinking about Twisted Fate Elise Go Hard decks, me included. But as the KDA fire died down, the world season passed, people kind of forgot about the whole thing. Riot didn't really issue an apology or anything, which I think was the right choice. The situation was pretty bad, but it wasn't so bad that it warranted an apology. Now we fast forward back to the present day. KDA has been silent for more than 2 years at this point, and Riot took this time to fix the mistakes they made with Runeterra Seraphine. One of the biggest complaints about her, besides her lore, was that her design was completely out of place, not just in Piltover but in Runeterra as a whole. So the Legends of Runeterra team said I'd bet. In the second part of the Darkened Saga, they added Seraphine as a champion card, and since I haven't played Runeterra since the whole concurrent timelines improvised bullshit broke the game, I heard that Seraphine and Ezreal were also kinda OP. But that's besides the point, I was talking about the design. They made her a natural brunette, her hair now being a dyed bright pink. They changed her clothes so she wore what a normal girl would wear in Piltover rather than her stage costume. And they even went back and fixed that. Rather than being so over the top that it looks out of place in a steampunk city, they gave her leather gloves, put sick leather straps around her shoulders, and a guitar that shoots flames. They also gave her more character than just a happy girl who sings. She has a really wholesome relationship with her father, rides a scooter, and has a pet squirrel. Now, rather than being so overly optimistic and happy it felt grating and out of place, it feels like a well-placed happy character in a kind of dark city. So in the end, was it really that bad? Kinda. Seraphine's release as a champion in League of Legends was kinda bad. Before Seraphine came out in Legends of Runeterra, I used to believe it would have been best if Runeterra Seraphine hadn't existed and Seraphine had stayed as KDA Seraphine, but now I don't think so. Riot managed to claw Seraphine back from the depths, even though it took them 2 years to do it. But KDA Seraphine could also have been handled way better, even if it was all just to sell a skin. And maybe if Seraphine stayed as a character in the KDA universe, it could have worked out better. Like a completely separate non-champion character in the group could have been really cool. And if anybody could pull it off, I think it would be Riot Games. But right now, as of 2023, I feel like Riot has rectified their mistake to a pretty decent extent. Thank you so much for watching. This video was also pretty fun to make, looking back on the whole scenario in 2020. I just want more KDA music, man. Please, it's so good. Just bring it back. Why have they not done it for like 2 years? Don't even get me started on that Lil Nas X bullshit, but like, bring it back, please. I wonder what Riot's next like music project is going to be, because they do one big music thing every year. Like in 2018 there was like the first KDA, 2019 it was True Damage, 2020 was the EP, and then in 2021 they released They released Pentakill's second album, Lost Chapter. Third album, I mean. They released Lost Chapter. And then in 2022 they did the fucking Lil Nas X song. Well wait, they didn't do one in 2022, did they? I can't think of what I top of my head. Because the world song and the other songs tend to be separate. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like and subscribe. Share the video with your friends. See ya. Later.